Welcome to Burning Tree Programs Spotlight. Burning Tree Programs is a family-owned program which creates specialized ethical treatment programs for the alcoholic and the addict who still suffers. With that fact, we have created 4 programs. In 1999, our owner, David Elliott, created Burning Tree Ranch outside of Dallas and Kaufman. Burning Tree Ranch is a long-term drug and alcohol treatment center for the chronic relapser for men and women. Average length of stay is anywhere from 8 to 14 months of residential with a year of transitions. In 2004, David Elliott created Burning Tree Lodge. Burning Tree Lodge was rebranded a couple years ago when we had the honor of bringing Peter Pirano on as our chief operating officer. It's now known as Renewal Lodge by Burning Tree. It is a clinically advanced 12-step approach, mindfulness. It is an in-network provider with all major insurance companies in the United States. New to the Burning Tree family of programs is Awakenings Hill Country in Fredericksburg, Texas. David Elliott teamed up with Jessica and Josh Slay to reopen Awakenings in Fredericksburg, Texas. It is women helping women. It has a strong clinical component with the 12 steps, and it is very versed in trauma and helping women connect to a power greater than themselves. And David Elliott, our owner, found his path of freedom in Tucson, Arizona in the early 90s. And he created Burning Tree West. It's about 1.5 miles east of the University of Arizona. Burning Tree West is a young adult program with a collegiate track. And we also have some sober living beds for men and women there in the Tucson area. So without any additional chitter chatter, I am super honored to bring on the clinical directors for all 4 of our programs, and I want to introduce them. Megan Boldman is our clinical director for our initial program, Burning Tree Ranch. Keto Holtzman is our clinical director for Renewal Lodge by Burning Tree. Tara Womble is our clinical director for Awakenings Hill Country in Fredericksburg. And Katie Childress is our clinical director out in Tucson for Burning Tree West. And I want to welcome all of you. How are y'all? Tell me something. Everybody good?
We're all good. I'm good anyway. I'll speak for myself.
All right.
I'm well as well. Thank you for asking.
Excellent.
Thank you. Katie?
Yeah,
you hear
doing
us?
really well. It's just
Good,
a little hot
good.
here, but yeah, we're doing good.
Well, I wanted to, first and foremost, I know that the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous is very synonymous in my path of finding freedom. And I would like to ask all of you to chime in on the role of the 12 steps in clinical programming at Burning Tree. Keto?
Sure. So it is a huge component of what we do here. I really believe that the 12 steps is the conduit to get connected to a power greater than ourselves. And, it's pretty much, what we do straight out of the big book, not watered down. It's the 12 steps unadulterated. And we add a mindfulness component to it that really kind of amplifies the 12 steps. The disease centers in our mind, and we get this delusion, and we can't separate fact from fiction. And the mindfulness component really helps us to get to know the mind and know that we're not our mind. And the 12 steps just fit perfectly into what we're doing with the mindfulness component here. The mindfulness component plugged into the 12 steps is kind of like the 12 steps on steroids. We really use the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the first 164 pages, and everyone that works here has worked the steps and, you know, knows how to work with people, and even people that are hesitant about the steps. If they're hesitant about the steps, we can find a way in to get them to engage in working the 12 steps. So, I mean, it's a huge component of what we do. And I believe it's the work through the 12 steps that shows people the freedom that's available. Because my higher power wants me to do something, not just say something, in order to show my loved ones and my higher power that I'm doing something. You can't think yourself out of addiction, and knowledge will not do it. You've got to do some work. And the 12 steps is the best way I know how to do that.
Yeah. Megan, how are the steps utilized at Burning Tree Ranch?
Thank you for having me. So
Yeah.
very similar to keto. The 12 steps here are the foundation of a lot of our work. We use the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the first 164 pages, as our text. And at Burning Tree Ranch, because we're long-term, we have the ability to, one of the most beautiful things is the time. So we have the ability to allow them to separate, and clients have a sponsor outside of here, and all of our staff work the steps consistently in Alcoholics Anonymous or in Al-Anon. And it's really, we use the big book as the basis of what we do. It's a foundation and an outline on how to live a sober, self-supporting life of excellence. So we start clients very early on, after their first 30 days in step 1, and we use that throughout the entire time they're with us and inpatient. So it's one of our biggest components, if not, our core component in tandem with our clinical piece.
Thank you, Megan. Tara, I know you're a very big proponent of the steps, and you all have a very robust trauma track there for the women at Awakenings Hill Country. How are the steps intertwined with the work that you and your clinicians get to provide these ladies?
Yes. So I concur with the things that have already been said, and I'm grateful to work in alongside programs that feel the same way that we do about the 12 steps. It's the foundation of everything we do. We use the 12 steps and the principles within to help these young ladies find a way to live a sober life long term. Without sobriety, there is no option or opportunity to treat underlying issues like trauma, as you mentioned. And just like healing trauma, integration of feelings is how we heal and grow. And I think the 12 steps are a wonderful tool to use to integrate how I feel into a life of sobriety. The Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is also the text that we use and teach here on a daily, regular basis, says that men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced. So I like to teach them about that's their feelings. What am I feeling? And that feeling, the behavior that I'm using to manage that feeling is drinking or using. And when that's gone, those feelings are still there. And the same is true with their trauma. So finding healthier ways to manage those feelings.
Thank you. Katie, how are the steps implemented in your clinical approach out at Burning Tree West, which is very much a community model there in Tucson? I know Tucson's a very magical place to find sobriety, just as all the other locations we're at.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And we use Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps immediately in our program. So, it's an outpatient and sober living facility. And so, every day we have a community meeting that uses the big book, and that's what that group is surrounding with that community. And, we're using it clinically too. We have each of our students, clients has a sponsor. They obtain a sponsor within the first few weeks that they're here. And that's really important. They're working the steps with the sponsor, but also using that in clinical work as well, that, they're having difficulties. We're finding that especially step 4 and step 5 has been difficult for a lot of our clients. And being able to talk about that clinically is important as well. So having meetings with the COVID-19, it's been difficult, but we've been having our own inside meetings. But being out in the community to be able to get into the sober community is important too, and be able to attend those outside meetings to be able to give our students more access to that sober community.
Yeah. Well, thank you all 4 of you for commenting on this. So that leads me to segue into the next question. And what I'd like to know is from each of you, and we'll start off with Keto again, how does the clinical work and the daily programming balance out? A thought process from a clinical standpoint to the schedule. How is it all intertwined at your each respective facility? So Keto?
Sure. So, of course, not everyone has more energy in the morning, but we actually do our wellness program in the morning about 9 o'clock, and that's the first thing they do. And then they take a shower. And then after that, they have community. And we've kind of gotten community to a place where it's a lot of times people are brought concerns during community, and they're not real happy about what those concerns were. We kind of are trying to smash the delusion that happens in addiction. So we have to present people with some truths that they're not really that crazy to hear or that happy to hear. So right after community, we have process groups so we can process what happened during community. So we've got it kind of balanced out to where it's the community / we're going to give you your truth, and then they can talk about it right after community with the counselor. Sometimes they're asked to not talk about it for 24 hours. However, a lot of times the counselor will, if it's something, sometimes people just unravel in community completely, and it has to be addressed. So when that's the case, we do not ask them to wait 24 hours. But it's all, there's a method to the madness is what I'll say to the scheduling component for sure.
So I know, thank you, Keto. So I know, Megan, the ranch, which is long-term residential treatment, and you and your clinical team have an advantage of the length of stay. And I know it is a co-ed facility, meaning men and women learning to work together and work cohesively on a common goal. I know that your organization has community, then you have small group, and then you have clinical groups in the afternoon. Explain to us how all that intertwines and how it intertwines with the steps, would you?
Sure. So similar to what Keto said, we have community and then process group. And those things get carried over into the afternoon clinical groups. So we have a wide variety. We have peer evaluation groups where they will hear from their community members, their experience of their peers. So, the community will sit and give their feedback to the person who's, getting an evaluation about how they experience their defects in a much wider forum than, let's say, community. We also have gender group where men and women are separated and they're allowed to process gender specific issues, whether it be trauma, whether it be seeking validation from the opposite sex. They receive life skills. Many clients come to us without the adequate life skills to make their way through life. We also have built-in free time. We have exercise built in. So our clients, along with the 12 steps and the big book, how it is an outline for living, we integrate that into what their schedule looks like. So everything that we do can be turned into how this relates to living a life of success, and so into life skills. And then once our programming is done at 4 o'clock, throughout the week, they're getting their individual sessions. They also have neurofeedback integrated into their sessions, which is a different modality that we offer around healing the brain. But once programming is over at 4 o'clock, clients are, if they're on cook crew, they have a responsibility to cook dinner for the entire community. It's a group of them, or they're having commitments out of the big book. And then after dinner, once that their free time is completed, they will have some sort of meeting. We have either outside meetings 5 nights a week, or we have 2 in-house meetings. It's looked a little different with COVID. We've done some Zoom meetings, but they are attending a big book 12-step of some sort meeting every night of the week that they're with us at the ranch.
Yeah. Thank you, Megan. Now, Tara, I know at Awakenings Hill Country, which is a gender, all women helping women, I really liked hearing what you said. Your focus is a lot about trauma.
Mhm.
How is the trauma, how do you get to schedule that in your daily work with you ladies?
So, very similar schedules to the other facilities. The way that we use the trauma work is our staff is trauma informed or trained master's level clinicians that are experienced and use trauma informed modalities. I myself and another one of our therapists, or 2 more of our therapists, are EMDR trained. So we use EMDR in individual therapy as well. On a regular basis in our schedule, everything we do is trauma informed from the moment they wake up and have their meditation and mindfulness in the morning, all the way through even the fact that all of our employees are females in long-term recovery and are familiar with trauma themselves, healing and integration. We use that clinically, and then also with the 12-step work. How can we integrate the principles of 12 steps into trauma integration healing? And we do that daily. In our schedule, we have step groups, clinical groups, big book, physical activity, and even in the free time and the outings and the outside meetings, we try to be very trauma informed and conscientious throughout. We have been very graciously given several all female sober livings have done virtual H&Is during COVID for our girls, and that has proven to be very effective. So again, that women helping women, showing our women what it's like when you're completed treatment and out in the world at a sober house. So
Yeah.
that's been awesome for us during while we've been on shutdown here.
Yeah. Thank you, Tara.
Yeah.
So, Katie, I know the model at Burning Tree West is an extended care model, and like you alluded to, you have a sober living environment and you have some outpatient availability. So you have different people that are going to school. You have some clients that are working, going to trade school. How's all that integrated in your daily schedule?
Right. So ours is a little bit different. I agree with, we have similar things in our schedules. Like we start with a meditation in the morning. That's the first thing that they do, and then get ready, and then come to community group, and then we'll have our clinical groups after that, the processing group, and then either a psychoeducation group or a DBT group. Is what we do with our students. And then, and so within those groups, we'll have our intensive outpatient clients that are part of those groups. And then we also have our sober living clients. So it's a mix of that community, and to incorporate some support from lots of different people in that same community. We also have like an education time for those students that are in college courses or are wanting to go back to college. So those time, and our students can use that for if they're not in education or if they're not taking college credits at that time, even considering some of those things or being able to do some step work during that time. And then they have, we give them free time. Dinner is prepared by the students themselves. So that's even a fantastic life skill for them. And then, assigning them chores and then having meetings within the house. And then now we've started to go out to meetings. So that's a nice addition. But that schedule is so important to create, to give them that schedule that, it's so important to have in sobriety, figuring out, how do I manage the schedule myself and what do I do when I am on my own? It's such an important piece.
Yeah. what I picked up from all four of you is that everything is highly choreographed and very much a team. I really liked hearing like Tara share with us about the everyone's trauma informed, and I know that is something that's at all four of the locations. It's very much a team atmosphere. So I want to shift gears a little bit, and I want to ask you, what are the qualities and assets that each of you look for in your team members when you came about enlisting or enrolling your team members on your team? Tito?
So I kind of alluded to that earlier, that, I interviewed quite a few master's level clinicians, and I just didn't get the right one. And it's about passion. You've got to have a passion to love the clients when they come in and they're not quite lovable. My motto is, you have to love them until you can like them. And pretty much 99.9% of the people we get, once they've done the work and they're on the other side of addiction and they're not living in delusion, they're pretty lovable. Pretty much everybody that gets to the other side becomes lovable. A lot of times they're not real likable. So I look for people that can love people until they can like them. And they've got to have a passion for working with this population and really, kind of have some experience. Because if you get someone that comes in that this is their first gig as a counselor, they're probably not going to last unless they have some long-term recovery already. So it's just about finding the right people that are passionate about helping people in recovery and to recover, to get connected to their higher power. I wish I could hire master's level all the time, but this round, like, I just hired someone and she's an LCDC, but she's phenomenal. She's just fantastic. Very trauma informed, very loving and caring. And I can tell she's got the passion. So if you have the passion, I feel we can teach you the rest.
Thank you, Keto. Megan?
Yeah, I have to echo exactly what Keto said. That's something I look for pretty right off the bat. Here at the ranch, we're highly accountable. We have that's very important in our program. And so being able to hold somebody accountable and tell them the truth without love is it's unacceptable. It's a little bit of brutality. So I look for people who are able to tell them the truth with love on board. One of the things I also look for is the team approach. I know that everyone today has echoed how important the team is, but here at the ranch, we are doing relays all day long, talking about what happened in group here, because we're going to interact with this client later. So somebody who's very open to receiving feedback, giving feedback to the team, and being open to sharing and participating in the team. I think both of those aspects dovetail very well together, which I think helps create the environment that we have here at the ranch that helps us be successful with clients.
Thank you so much, Megan. Tara?
Yes. So I concur with both Keto and Megan. We too are very much a team. And as you guys noted, a family. Even the way our facility is set up is very family oriented. The way where we eat and where the food is prepared just looks like a kitchen. So we find that from the RAs to the cooks and kitchen staff to the clinical director, the clinicians, everyone, that we all work together as a team. So someone who wants to be a part of that team. Another really important thing for us is the passion and the desire, because this is a field that is very unpredictable what Monday may look like or Friday. And so they keep us on our toes, and the ability to remain grounded and centered when there can be a lot of moving parts around is really important for us. So we rely on each other for that sometimes, and even knowing when it's time to tap in a team member and step away, and being able to be informed about self when you need a break. So yeah.
Thank you, Tara. Katie?
Yeah, I was nodding my head in agreement with a lot of what everyone said, just because I think it's so important to be able to find somebody who has that passion for this field, has that passion for, um, helping these clients to be able to get through this addiction. And it is. I agree. Sometimes it's really difficult to care for them, to love them when they are, oh, you're just in it for the money, or you're just doing it because of something else, whatever. We are not in it for the money, by the way. But I think it's so important to find that person that it wants to be here, because they will be tested by these clients on a daily basis. So yeah, I think that's hugely important.
The biggest piece I picked up from all four of you is the passion, and the passion that you guys share in your, not only your answers, but I can feel it, and the continuity of care is enormous. So I want to shift gears. This will be our last question for each of you, and it's very easy. And I would like to put a personal face on each and every one of you with the people that we're blessed to have watching Spotlight today. And how is it that you knew you wanted to be a counselor? And Keto, would you start off?
Oh, yeah. So I was actually in counseling and thinking that, you know what, I could do that. This was 30 years ago. I was about 25 years old in the therapist's office, and I'm thinking, damn, that's a great job. I get to sit around and talk to people, and it would be amazing, make some decent money, and have fun while you're doing it. And about 7 years later, I started graduate school. It took a while to get there, but actually I started my bachelor's degree about 7 years later at 32 and finished up pretty quick, got my master's degree. And then I swore I was not going to work with substance abuse, because I thought I would do that for free and do it in the rooms and stuff. And every time I had an internship, I'd go try and do something at a mental health facility, but God threw me to the substance abuse over and over and over again. And I finally surrendered and said, okay, I think this is what I need to do. And I guess the rest is kind of history.
Thank you, Keto. Megan?
So I think I first came into that probably when I was in high school and I took my first psychology class. I'm so fascinated by the mind and how it works and the organ that is the brain. And I just craved knowledge about how it works, why it does the things it does. And throughout college, I grew more interested in substance abuse, and I was able to actually end up with a double degree with that. Then I've stumbled onto the world of trauma and substance abuse and how those two are so correlated. And I did not know I was going to work in long-term treatment. I thought I was going to be working in another country somewhere with trauma clients. And I ended up back in my roots in Texas here at Burning Tree Ranch at long-term recovery. And it has been the gift that has kept on giving. And I think that I have fell right back into where I needed to be. It's exactly what it needs to be. I love it here. So thank you for that question. I like that.
Tara?
So, in my head, I was just rolling around what my answer would be, and it's difficult for me to pinpoint the moment when I knew that this was what I was going to do. I think it's as cliche as it sounds. There were people that helped me, and I wanted to be a person that helped people. And it's interesting too, because when I told my family that I was going to get my degree in social work, I went the social work route. They were concerned because I have a tendency to get very annoyed with people. So but what I discovered is that wasn't working in my life. And I felt like, my God, my higher power was like, this is what I need you to do, is I need you to start focusing your energy, instead of being annoyed, into helping. And so really, I think my answer is God said so. And the cool part about what I do is, many years ago, this is a place that this town of Kerrville and Fredericksburg is a place of renewal and change and new life for me. So returning to this town to help women, and being the clinical director of a staff of women that do that is very, very perfectly, divinely planned for me. So I'm super grateful for that.
Thank you, Tara. Katie.
My story is kind of similar to Megan's a little bit, that I went to college right after high school, but I was in like a communications major and took a psychology class and went, oh my gosh, this is fascinating. I want to learn how the brain works, how the body works, why people choose to, have, behaviors, or why they're making choices and things like that. So I just fell in love right away and changed my major and, went to graduate school a little soon after getting my bachelor's degree. And in one of my first jobs, I worked with addiction, with kids, with young adults, but they were minors. And unfortunately, it was a pretty poorly run program, so I didn't stay there very long. But I found, and I've only been here at Burning Tree West since March, but I feel like I found the place that I absolutely want to be long term. This is an amazing program that it really makes a difference for these young people. So I'm so excited to be here, and I love that. I've been a therapist for 20 plus years, and I would never want to do anything else.
Well, I want to tell all four of you the message that I picked up from all four of you is that it was attraction, not promotion, that got you into this field. And it's so intertwined with what Burning Tree is about. And I want to personally thank each and every one of you for the work that you put in with our teams of clinicians, the work that you put in for our families that entrust us to work with their loved ones, and then our clients, especially during this period that we've all walked through with this sheltering in place and stuff. And I'm very grateful to be on the team with all of you. So thank you for what you do for us in Burning Tree.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank y'all. Have a great afternoon.
You too.
Take care, buddy.
Bye.
Guys.
Bye. So, what an honor. Burning Tree Programs is family owned and creates specialized ethical treatment programs for the alcoholic and the addict who still suffers. And with that being said, we have 4 programs. And the 4 programs, in 1999, David Elliott created Burning Tree Ranch. Burning Tree Ranch is in Kaufman, Texas, about 45-minute drive east of Dallas. It is a long-term drug and alcohol treatment center for men and women who are chronic relapsers. In 2004, he expanded the family of Burning Tree and created Burning Tree Lodge. About 2 years ago, David connected with our chief operating officer, and his name is Peter Pirano. They rebranded Burning Tree Lodge. It's now Renewal Lodge by Burning Tree. Renewal Lodge is a 30, 60-day treatment center for men and women. We are an in-network provider for all major insurance companies in the United States. And we utilize a mindfulness approach, a clinically advanced mindfulness approach to the 12 steps. And earlier this year, Jessica and Josh Slay connected with David Elliott, our founder and owner, and they reopened Awakenings Hill Country in Fredericksburg. Awakenings Hill Country is an all-women's treatment center, substance use disorder. It's got a strong trauma track, very 12-step rooted, and they are also an in-network provider with several insurance companies in the United States. And then in Tucson, Arizona, where our founder found his path to freedom, is Burning Tree West. Burning Tree West is a young adult program for men and women, and it also has a collegiate track, and it also has some sober living beds available for men and women. And I can't thank our guests enough, Keto Holtzman, Megan Bowman, Tara Womble, and Katie Childress. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for watching Spotlight. Have a blessed day.